welcome back to Encut and welcome back to another industry interview. Today we're interviewing Ivan Poharnok, owner of Filmefex and Viktoria Stieber, one of his lead SFX artists. Filmefex is a special effects makeup company out of Budapest in Hungary. As Filmefex, they have been able to work on amazing movies such as Dune Part 2, Midsummer, Poor Things, Blade Runner, and many others. Today we're specifically talking about Alien Romulus, the latest installment in the Alien franchise. In our interview, Viktoria and Ivan were able to tell us about everything that happened on set for them. Everything from how to cast a human head to how long an actor has to be on the chair to be ready and set to film. This was a really fun interview to film because for those who don't know, Kaylin loves SFX makeup and I've been her dummy plenty of times. Before we go to our interview, remember to subscribe and like this video for more content like this where we can interview industry professionals from your favorite movies. Without further ado, Viktoria and Ivan.
Yeah, so my name is Ivan Poharnok, and I've been dealing with special effects for since I was, I think, I started making spaceship models when I was 10, when I saw Star Wars. So that's been like over 40 years now. And as a living, I started doing it since I was 16. So quite a long time ago. And yeah, Star Wars triggered it, and I was interested in all kinds of aspects of special effects, not only makeup effects. But then after I graduated high school, I got more into the makeup effects world and got to meet Dick Smith, and I spent a year in Hollywood working for different special effects companies. And when I came back to Hungary, I created my own company called Filmefex, and this was in '96. So about close to 30 years now, we've been doing as a company makeup effects, dummies, special props, specialty costumes for films. Victoria?
Yeah, I'm Viktoria Stieber. And I started out a bit different. I mostly come from like a theater background. And then after high school, I did an internship in a theater in the makeup and hair department in Germany. And after a couple of years, I started studying in Germany makeup, hair, and special effects, basically, and did that for 3 years. And afterwards, I went to Budapest and started working for Ivan, who took me in very nicely. And yeah, I mean, I kind of was fascinated in the special effects prosthetic world and realized what it entails in the 3 years I studied in Munich. So I was very happy that I could join the workshop environment and kind of learn from there and then go to set, basically. And yeah, I just love the attention to detail and all of that, which doesn't come as natural or isn't used as often in a theater background, basically. So that's how I got into it. And yeah, I've been doing that for 10 years now almost.
Wow, that's awesome. I know a lot of makeup artists that we meet kind of work within themselves and learn a lot just kind of by networking. But we were just wondering, Ivan, what it was like trying to create your own company and trying to launch that, like if there was any difficulty that you faced creating that.
Yeah, many. It's just keep in mind that I'm from a communist country, so this was like the socialism or communism here in Hungary, and we lived behind the Iron Curtain without much access and information to the Western world. So that's when I left the country, and there was a change while I was in the US. And when I got back, the film industry and the advertising industry kind of boomed, and a lot of Western companies came to the country. But this is a very virgin territory in this aspect. when I started my company. It was a good opportunity because from nothing to, basically there were a lot of opportunities, but everything had to be scratch built. So there was nobody did this at that time, and there was nobody I could reach out to. So what I learned in the US was the knowledge that I brought back, and I gradually built it up. It was a very slow process. So, if 4 years, that's a lot. So it's been a slow process, but the good thing was that at that time it wasn't that busy in the country, and we were pretty much the only company who did this, and we are still one of the biggest ones in Eastern Europe area doing this kind of work. But yeah, there were many challenges, of course, just as with any new company.
Yeah. So today, obviously you both have worked on many things, but today specifically we're talking about Alien. So moving into kind of talking about that series. As you guys know, there's been many movies within the series. It's been around for years. And obviously they had some pretty solid special effects at the beginning. And I'm curious kind of what it was like to take that original work of creating those aliens and kind of making something new out of that for this newest film that came out.
Well, I think I will start, and then Victoria, you can join. So the order of events were, I worked with Fede on 2 movies before he came to Hungary to shoot Alien Romulus. So we already knew each other, and also the fact that this film was to be shot in Hungary. These 2 factors helped us, getting, being part of the project. And early on, when I was approached, it wasn't fully clear who is doing what, but as time passed, it gradually became obvious that the job will be divided up into between 4 companies, and Legacy was to do most of the creature work, and ADI, which is not ADI anymore, but it's Alec Gillis, is studio. He did also many creatures, the chestbursters, but on a smaller scale. And Weta ended up doing all the face huggers, and us as Filmefex, which was located in Budapest, Hungary, we got all the effects that were actor and actress related, so all the human bits. So this is how it all started, and once I got this job, I reached out to Victoria to basically supervise the project, because we usually work on multiple projects simultaneously as a company, and I wanted somebody that I could trust who could supervise this project. So this is how it all started.
Victoria, what was your approach from the first call to supervise the film into actually moving to pre-production and then production of the film?
Well, like Ivan said, I was already in Budapest at the time, I think, and then he asked me to join the project and basically stay for like another half a year. And yeah, we started out looking at the script, obviously, reading it, seeing who dies, who might need a dummy, for example, or what wounds or effects might be needed, and then started the whole scheduling process, because we started shooting in March, if I remember correctly. And we started prepping it November, December. But at that time, we didn't have any of the actors or actresses cast. So we started doing a lot of the things we could prep without the people already in Budapest or having them available to live cast, for example. So we did, I think, eight dummies who were involved in one of the set pieces in the long hall of the alien hive. So we started out doing that. And once the people, the actors and actresses arrived in Budapest, then we could start doing all the live casts and working on those specific pieces.
So for those who don't know how prosthetics and those kind of things are made, would you mind just like kind of giving us a brief overview as to how you would go about making a piece for an actor for a film?
Yeah. Well, on this job, there are two categories that I would mention. One is the dummies, and the other was prosthetics, which are applications on certain actors or actresses. But both usually start with a reference of these people so that either get a likeness or to make a fitting proper. The problem on this project was, which is more and more common nowadays, that all the cast arrived to Hungary literally 1 week before principal photography, which is ridiculously late. So we were lucky enough to have a lot of the shots that involved our work, to be shot a bit later, not from the first day. But so going back to your question, the process usually starts with either a cast, an actual cast, which is done by pasting silicone rubber material onto the face or the body of the person, and we reinforce that with plaster, and then we make a plaster copy of that head to make a duplicate of the person, and we work from there so that the person would not have to be in the shop all the time. So basically we make a copy of the person. Nowadays, what is more and more common, especially since COVID, is a digital version of this. So we 3D scan the person and 3D print it and work from there. The reason why a lot of people like this is because we don't touch their face. That's one thing. The other is that in theory, this could be done in any part of the world, and the file can be transferred online to another part of the world. In this case, though, it didn't happen. So we did everything. We started doing everything once they arrived. But Viktoria, you can take over to explain more details about the process.
Sure. So basically after you have the copy of their face or body, whatever you need, you get into the sculpting process. So you refine the live cast basically, or print out the scan and then go from there. But yes, sculpting is the next step. And then once you're happy with that, you go into molding and run a mostly silicon copy of that sculpt, and then starts the painting and the art finishing, punching hair and all of that. Depending on if it's a prosthetic, you just have an appliance at the end that you then glue onto the actor. With a dummy, it's a little more elaborate and it takes a lot longer. And we did have a lot of pieces that were more elaborate, I guess, because for Andy, for example, we made a head which had a drawer in his head, which had to function. So you could push it and it opened and it lit up. So the process of building the whole core and the inside and the mechanics of that took a lot longer.
Yeah, so a lot of the items that we built had to function. So there's a lot of times a dummy just needs to be displayed because it gets smashed or just is just there because they don't want to put an actress on the ground for hours and hours and days. But in our case, there are a lot of items that had to function. Andy's head was one of those with the drawer. We also had Tyler's head that the alien kind of like smashes into. That was a mechanical head. We also had, the chest of Eileen for the chestburster scene where the actual chestburster had to come out and the chest had to explode. So a lot of those elements have to function and are mechanized and involves engineering, not only artistic work.
I have a question. So as film effects, you've worked in movies that don't have a lot of, I guess, visual background. Say like Dune, for example. Like I know there is an older Dune, but it was pretty much a blank canvas to work with those actors and with that film universe. But Alien has a heavy cult following and people that will go to the theaters just because it's Alien. Uh, is there a different approach that you had to take in order to, like, I don't know, keep fidelity or make sure that you keep the audience in mind to not stray too far from the original content?
Well, I mean, all the design work was orchestrated by Fede. So he's a fantastic guy. He really knew what he wanted, and he was a big fan of all the Alien films. So regardless of what we had in mind or what we wanted, I really loved his ideas, by the way. But he basically he dictated everything. He knew he wanted to show certain things, what kind of effect he wanted to see, how certain things had to look like. So it was we didn't need to design much because it was all in his head. Even the I think the most freedom we got for was the Andy's drawer that I designed, but that was based on his instructions. But in our world, we didn't have to deal with the creatures themselves. We did effects for the humans. So the design wise, there were questions about how deteriorated these people in the hive should be, how much they should be rotting, or how the explosion on a chest should look like. But we got a lot of input from Fede on all of these. And he had a great taste. So I think it just automatically was very authentic and automatically, just by him leading the work, we could please the audience, I assume.
Definitely, yeah. A lot of the work you guys did involve quite a bit of blood or saliva or kind of all these natural human things, especially when chest is bursting out. So I'm curious kind of how you went about creating some of these things, knowing that they were going to get wet and covered in things. Did you have to make multiples? Did you have to clean them after each take? Kind of what was that process like?
Victoria?
Yes, like you said, pretty much exactly that. You have for Eileen's chestburster, for example, we had multiple pieces for multiple days because I think that scene we shot over almost 3 or 4 days. So there were more stages to it, and each stage had their own different piece. And we did go in and clean all the blood off after each take. So yeah, it's quite a fun day though. So
And do you have to, when you know a prosthetic is getting wet like that, do you have to make it differently or is it the same process?
no, I feel like nowadays that we use a lot of silicone and blood, that it's not particularly staining a lot. It does come off quite easily. For the costume, I think it's a very different thing because once there's blood on the costume, they just have to switch it out. But for us, we were able to clean it off pretty easily.
And as you kind of create prosthetic effects, I know we're in a time where computer effects is also a large part of the special effects work. So I'm curious if there was any point on Alien where you were like, okay, like the prosthetic can only go so far, and then computer will take over. Did you have that any sort of conversation with that, or was this all practical?
Yeah, well, first of all, PETA wanted everything practical, even things that you would not imagine anyone would do practical. But I think what we've been trying to do, especially with the working or functioning elements, like the chestburster or a smashed head, what I always like to do is, because of repeatability, when you blow up a chest, you have to shoot it like 10 times, you either make it 10 times and just hope that it blows up right, or what I prefer to do is to mechanize everything and make it work so it didn't really explode. We had a lot of hinges and mechanical parts that kind of opened up the wound in a natural way in a very quick speed. And the beauty of that is that we could close everything back again, and you could repeat this as many times as you wanted. Same with the Tyler's head. The only drawback is that you see very thin lines where all these pieces are cut up. So that's where visual effects comes in handy, because they basically clean it up before the explosion happens. We call it like, hide and seal. So basically they kind of like seal up these wounds, then we explode it, and it looks very natural. But the great thing is that we can repeat it, as many times as you want very quickly. So that's one thing where visual effects is very helpful. And there was another gag that I'm not even sure if it ended up on screen, but Fede really insisted on having Björn's head eaten by the acid. And he wanted that practical. So basically, acid dripping on a head that would melt away instantly. And we spent like weeks and weeks on experimenting with that. And, we asked other people how they did it. Alex suggested to try cotton candy because that kind of like that worked very well for them on a Björn video clip. And we try, we experimented a lot about it, and nothing really worked. And I just said to Fede that, listen, no matter how much we want this practical, it will just not work. This is not something that can be done in practical. So I think that was one thing that we couldn't do, but most of everything else was practical.
I would have never guessed, just given that it's Alien. You just like assume, I guess, when you watch different movies that just so many things had to be computer effects, especially the drawer. That's very interesting. What was it like applying that prosthetic? Was it just like kind of bulky on the side of the head, or?
We had different versions of that. Basically, there was one little piece that was just stuck on when it didn't have to open, basically. So that was very simple, very smooth. And the makeup team took care of that because it was more on a like daily repeat, and yeah, not really that elaborate. And then there was one piece which was a little thicker and which had basically the front panel of the drawer inside, so you could open the little flap and see that, not push it out obviously when it was on David, but it was there. And then we also had different things, different head pieces, basically, where the drawer was attached. So if we saw it from a specific angle, you could see the drawer on his head without seeing like where it didn't go inside. And then we did have the mechanical head. So for the cryo chamber scene, for example, there was a lot of the mechanical head used, and I think for the first scene where we actually see Kaylee open it and adjusting it with the key, that was a prosthetic on that day.
And also, it
Over-
was quite complicated in a way. Fede wanted it to work like an IKEA, kitchen drawer where you push it and it pops out, but you would have to grab it and pull it out more. And so that was one thing that we had to make work. And also, he had this idea that when the key is inserted into this before it pops out, he wanted to see a lot of tiny lights, kind of like, working like a safe code that certain lights, light up in a specific order. So none of that is visual effects. Everything we use very tiny fiber optics to drive the lights into those, and everything was practical. It was quite tiny and microscopic.
Yeah, I think that's one of those things that you wouldn't assume it's practical, because it's just, in many people's head, it just makes more sense to do it in VFX because they think it's easier, but in reality, VFX is so expensive, and
Right.
with people like you guys, it's way easier to do it practically.
Yeah. I'm curious, obviously you had many different challenges of things to create, but I'm curious what you guys thought was the most rewarding challenge that you overcame while on this film.
I think for me, it was probably the chestburster scene we did with Navarro, just because on the day when everything came together and Alec was there with his chestburster, and there was a team of, I don't know, 4 or 5 puppeteers puppeteering the chestburster and just like getting it ready for shoot after each take. And that working out at the end, because also keeping in mind we were on 2 different continents while prepping this effect, basically, and we had to bring it together and it had to work out. That was probably the most rewarding, that it actually worked out at the end. And I think it looked pretty nice.
It looked amazing.
Yeah. Ivan, what about you?
Yeah, I think it was the same. Yeah, another challenging one was Tyler's head, but the chestburster, because it had so many stages. So first, it was a practical gag where the rib cage starts to lift up, so that was practical and not visual effects. And then we switched to the exploding one, and we also had to make like a double-sized version, or 150%, because Alec made an enlarged version of the chestburster for closer shots where the color could change, then it had like a lot more detail. So we actually had to make a larger version of the same chest working the same exact way. So it had many aspects of it, and also the fact that the way it was shot, it was in a very high gimbal. So the cockpit was on a gimbal which was, I don't know, like 20 feet high up, in a very tiny room. So poor actress had a very tiny hole that she had to kind of like stand into, leaning fully backwards, so that only her chest would be visible. And then we attached this, fake legs in front of that. And then we had to lock her with all these extra panels around her body into this thing for, I don't know for how long, but quite a long time. And then all the operators and puppeteers were in this very tiny room spread out in every tiny bit of a corner, operating this. So it was, it was quite challenging on the day as well.
Wow.
Gosh, that I can't imagine being the actor in that situation. How were they to work with overall?
Elaine was lovely. She took it like a champ. Yeah, no, she was so kind and so patient with us. And I mean, it definitely wasn't a comfortable shooting day for her, having a full second chest attached to her ribs. basically. It wasn't that light. It was quite heavy, and she had to hold it while walking. And it was attached for the whole day. So yeah, thank God she was so lovely because
How long does he
otherwise could have
need to
gone bad.
apply?
To apply?
Yeah.
Me and Andrea, a colleague, we applied it in the morning, and I think it took like 2.5 hours, maybe 2. Yeah.
It's a long time. So many people that listen to our podcast and kind of why we started the industry interviews is because we wanted to kind of show all the different parts of the film industry and all the different avenues you can take if you're interested in film or art department, that kind of thing. So what is a message or like a piece of advice you would give to someone that is interested in special effects and prosthetic work as a career for themselves?
I think that's a question for you.
Okay. Well,
You're
I
older and
always,
wiser.
yeah. Obviously, a lot of people approach us, probably one a week, and showing portfolios and all that. And over the years, I realized that it doesn't quite matter. It's not really how talented the person is or how good what she or he can make, but to me, one of the most important things is that the person has to be very enthusiastic and has to want to do it, because what I experienced is that that's the driven force. If you really want to do it and if you're really interested, you will learn how to do it, and you will practice a lot, and you will get better. So I think the initial motivation and interest is the key element. Obviously, you need good hands. So if you're fully untalented, don't try it. But I think a person can improve a lot, and also, you have to work hard. That's the other thing. But I think if you're interested and if you like doing it, then you automatically work hard. And if you work hard, you will learn how to do it. So to me, that's the key to everything.
That's great. Definitely, I can definitely see it with special effects because I don't know. When I see special effects, I try it's so hard for me to wrap my head around how you get from just like an idea to the final product. So it definitely makes sense as to how much time and effort really goes into creating and crafting and all the mechanics involved. So yeah, I love what you guys have done on this film, and I definitely want to keep my eye out for it because it is just so well done.
And it's very interesting to be doing this interview because Kaylin actually does some special effects herself, and I've been on the chair being covered in plastic.
You've been my guinea pig here and there, so but it is hard.
Amazing.
Yeah. We've been asking everybody that we've interviewed, what is your favorite movie and why?
No
Putting
rush.
us on the spot there. Too
Yeah.
many
Well,
to choose from.
I've got a recent experience that it's a movie that I worked on. So it's Midsummer from Ari Aster, and apart from the fact that I had the opportunity to work on it, and we did a lot of effects on it, what I really loved about it is that it has a very special sick humor that is very close to my heart. So I kind of, it's not necessarily the gory films or the science fiction films that I like, but something that has a very, a special humor or a thick taste. And I think this is a good example. Midsummer is a good example of the type of movies that I like.
I don't know about one favorite movie of all times. Can't think of one right now, but in the last years, I really enjoyed Poor Things, for example, just because it was something new. And I do appreciate them having the courage to actually try to bring something new to the big screen. So I really enjoyed that, and I loved the visuals, and yeah, that was one for me, I think.
Love that. I know you must be working on something new. Can you share with us anything that you recently finished up, or anything you can tell us about what you guys are working on next?
I think what we can say, because the trailer just came out yesterday,
True.
the Death of a Unicorn with Jenna Ortega. So that's, I think that's the first that comes out that we worked on.
And that's for
Exciting.
both of us. Yeah.
We'll definitely have to watch it then. So
And
we
hopefully we
talk
can have
about
you over again for another episode.
it.
Sure.
And where can our listeners follow you and catch up with you guys' work?
Well, I'm only on Facebook, but Victoria is on Instagram.
I'm on Instagram, yes.
What is your handle?
It's Viktoria Stieber, just my name, without any dots or spaces. Just, yeah, Victoria with a K.
Yeah, my, it's my company name, the Filmefex. That's on Facebook as well, and we also have a web page. But yeah, I'm kind of like none of these are too up to date, unfortunately, because I don't have the energy to do that. But occasionally I put new stuff on it.
Nice. Well, thank you guys so much for agreeing to be on our podcast and for this interview. It was really great getting to know you guys. One final thing that we do when we close out a podcast episode is to say and cut and clap our hands. So we'd love if you guys do that. But if you want to say goodbye to the audience first, that'll be great too.
And you can do it in turns, and then we'll just splice it up together.
Amazing. No, thank you. Thank you for having us. It was great.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a pleasure. Unfortunately, I cannot clap my hands because I broke my upper arm yesterday.
Oh
But
no.
but I wish you all good luck, and it's been a pleasure talking to you guys.
You could just say and cut, and if you have one
Yeah,
hand
yeah,
that you snap with.
Yeah.
I will clap for both of us.
And cut.
And cut.
Thank you so much for watching this episode of Cut. You can follow us on all social media, starting with Instagram as Cut the podcast. You can also follow us on YouTube as That Film Couple, which is the same handle for TikTok, That Film Couple for short form content. You can also follow us on Twitch as Sebasparra1K. And if you're watching right now on YouTube, you can find us on any podcast platform as Cut ! Last but not least, you can follow me on Instagram as sebi.mp4.
And you can follow me at caitlin.mp4.
Thank you so much for being here one more week, and we'll see you in the next one.